So hi everyone, I'm happy to have Claire De Boer with us today. Claire is a writer, a teacher, and a visionary with a passion for stories and a strong belief in their power to connect us. She stands for love, community, and to see a world healed and connected through the power of story. Claire's vision is to reach out to those people whose story of belief and beliefs about who they are is holding them back from living an abundant life. Through the process of creating writing, it's her goal to bring about healing and change and connection to self. Claire also helps people to write their story in her workshop that you can find on her website at thegiftofwriting.com. So welcome, Claire. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, we might as well just dive into the questions. I've been sort of lurking on your website, and that's kind of how I found you. And I just love not only your posts, but your guest posts, and just how people are so real and transparent and authentic in sharing their stories and what they've gone through. And it fascinates me. And so would you mind just sharing your story, Claire, what you're comfortable with, of your childhood and the journey you took to discovering in your life that writing was a gift to heal you, and also in that process, how you came to discover that this might also be something that would help others through their own stories?
Mm-hmm. Well, my story is not actually too much of a compelling one. I grew up in a very broken home, and I later came to realize that I suffered from depression a lot as a child, and that continued into adulthood. And much of that was probably due to coming from a broken home. But, the details are not so important as what I have done with since. And I think that as I went into adulthood, I kept a lot of my feelings about my childhood suppressed, and I didn't really talk about it, and I never actually even acknowledged that I had depression in the first place. As a child, I had no idea that it even existed, and I just thought the life I was living was normal. But as I became an adult and had consequent issues in relationships and just relating to other people, I realized how much of a profound effect my childhood had had on me and suffering from depression had had on me. And it wasn't until I started writing about it several years ago that I realized that to come to a place of self-awareness and healing, I needed to get it all out. I needed to put it down on paper. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I started to do. And in doing so, I found a fresh perspective. I sort of realized what I was dealing with, what I with. I started to face my depression and actually start to do something about it. And I faced some of those childhood memories that were really raw and painful, and sort of tried to wade my way through them and see them a little differently, and realize how they had shaped the person that I am today. And doing so just had a really profound effect on me. I was always a writer. I've been a fiction writer for years. And once I discovered the healing power of writing, I made a shift to nonfiction. And I've sort of never gone back, because I've seen how much it has helped me, and I want to help other people to do the same. So I've sort of stuck in the nonfiction realm and continue to do so, and now work as a teacher doing so.
That's so neat that you would sort of come on this journey in your life and just sort of recognize and be willing to pivot, even from writing fiction to nonfiction, realizing the power of story that you've experienced, right? And so that's pretty neat.
Sure. Yeah, it has been neat.
Yeah. So nowadays there's so many people talking about writing your story, the story of your life. And for a lot of people, at least the ones that I've connected with, it seems like it's a really hard thing to do, if not impossible. Or maybe it feels like it's impossible. It's like when we go there, go into that space, right? Especially if our story's been sort of hard, right? We've experienced a lot of pain. When we choose to be vulnerable and get to the truth of our story, we're scared maybe that we'll be rejected and or laughed at, or maybe no one will say anything at all, which might be worse because it's like that silence. So, you know, where does someone who wants to write their story begin? Are there steps to take with that? Maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yeah. Well, let me just address your comment on fear. I think everybody has that fear that if they share who they really are and their authentic story and what has brought them to where they are today, that they may be criticized or people won't really like them. And, you know, that's never been my experience. I've always found that whenever somebody has really shared the authentic side of themselves, that it's brought me closer to them and that it's been a real place of connection when that happens. So I think that's a fear that is often unfounded. There may be some people out there who are judgmental, and that can happen. I think that in the majority of cases, it just brings healing and connection and brings people closer together.
Yeah.
So I think to focus on that rather than the odd person who may be critical is the more important thing. And, you know, it all comes down to this fear of vulnerability that we all have, right? That, you know, if we put ourselves out there, if we put our emotions out there, then we're exposing ourselves. We're not hiding behind that safe wall anymore. And that's always hard, but to step into that place of being uncomfortable, to me, is where we grow.
Yes.
So that's my thought on fear. And my thought on where to begin is lots of people have this idea that they need to go out and write a memoir or something. And that may be the case for some people. But I think with a lot of people, you start by initially writing it down yourself. So I always say keep a journal. That's one of my big things. And you start just by sharing your story in small groups among your friends and just getting comfortable with talking about it. That's what I had to do. And I also shared my story online via blog posts, which is really helpful to me. And there's something about sort of hitting publish and not being faced with your audience that's nice.
Yeah.
It helps you face that fear, right? So, yeah, and I always say go where the strongest emotions are. That's a place to start. And it's quite often an uncomfortable place, but it's usually the right place. So share in small groups, begin with a journal, and then see where you want to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I can see that being really helpful. Just as you were saying about, you know, writing in a journal, I know myself and a few other friends from another writers group, we've started doing morning pages, you know, from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, and just have found that really, for myself anyway, it's quite eye-opening, actually, some of the stuff that you put down on the page, right?
Yeah, you really see your patterns of thinking through doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's just stream of consciousness, right?
Yes, just writing, and so I mean that's been good. That really opens you up maybe to more of who you are and this, you know, what's kind of going on in your brain. Maybe stuff that you don't always want to see. So that's really good. So just, you know, we were talking about journaling, and we were kind of sort of touched on fear and stuff. It just reminded me of, you wrote a honest and very brave post about your lifetime struggle with depression. Would you talk about that and maybe, you know, give some of your tips on how writing can help people when they are in that place?
Yeah, when you're in that place, writing is actually one of the last things you feel like doing, or it's one of the last things I have felt like doing. But I've really had to force myself to do that. And journaling is a habit I've had now for several years that has really helped me with that. Because through journaling, I'm able to see patterns of toxic thinking, which is a huge part of depression. I'm able to work with my inner critic. I'm able to see my stream of consciousness, as we were just discussing, see where my thoughts are going. And it's a place where we become so much more self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
So just writing out your thoughts, writing out what you want to get from the day, writing out positive affirmations, trying to turn toxic thoughts into have a more positive slant. All of these things are really helpful. And I think that anything where you're sort of focusing on how you feel and where you want to go, how you want to feel, anything like that is really transformative. And that's what has helped me with my depression for sure.
That's really good. I can totally see that, because maybe you can see more of who you are on the page, and maybe that helps.
Yeah,
because
there are specific dialogue. Dialogue is a technique that I use. There are specific journaling techniques that I use. One of them is dialogue, and dialoguing is actually where you go back and forth between yourself and either another person or a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So for people with depression, you can set up a dialogue between yourself and your depression, or yourself and your inner child, or yourself and a younger self. And you can sort of glean answers that are in your subconscious mind about how you're feeling and your thought processes, and you can just learn more, and it helps give you a different perspective. So specific techniques are really helpful too.
Yes. No, I can see that. I haven't actually tried that, but that sounds very like that would, be something that would take you deeper, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Would you say that is part of the way is through journaling? Are there other ways to overcome toxic thoughts, like, fear, different thoughts that hold us back in some way from moving forward in life? Really that's, I guess, just something that's toxic, and so is there a way to overcome those? And how does faith play a role in that process?
Well, how to overcome it, I think that's different for everybody, and it's also very challenging. We all have an inner critic. We all have toxic thinking in our lives. Just for some people, it's way worse than for others. And I think for me that really checking in with myself on a daily, and not just every morning, but several times a day, checking in with myself and saying, how am I doing? How am I feeling? What's going on in my head right now? And having that self-awareness and being able to catch those thoughts as they happen. So initially it takes a lot of work in being able to recognize them, and that's where I think the writing really helps, because when you can pinpoint them, write them down, and try and turn those thoughts around, that's really helpful. And positive affirmations work for some people. Personally, I find kind of the post-it notes on the mirror, I sort of ignore them a lot of the time, so they're not that helpful to me. But checking in with myself is helpful. And prayer, of course, is very helpful. I make prayer and meditation a part of my morning self-kindness sort of time. So prayer, meditation, journaling, those are all really important to me. And they really help with the toxic thinking.
Yes.
Meditation, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it's very much a personal thing, but just having anything that you can do to have that self-awareness. Even yoga is amazing for that, because you're checking in with your body, you're checking in with yourself all the time. So a lot of these spiritual practices, yoga, writing, I find them all very helpful.
Yes. Too, I have prayer and meditation every morning too, and that just really, it's like it, helps to focus you for the day, and almost like it clears your mind, and actually doing the morning pages, which is, kind of like journaling, I guess, in a way.
It's like a download of your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see pages.
Yes.
Download.
Yeah, exactly. It just, whatever's there just comes out. And so, but it's good because it's like it clears your mind from all of the, or at least most, maybe not all, but of the stuff that could clutter and get in the way. Yeah.
But my advice with morning pages is that the morning pages should be a first step. they're like the download.
Yeah.
And you work using specific journaling techniques.
Yes.
To help you overcome your toxic thinking, work through whatever you want to work through that's going on in your life. So I definitely see the morning pages as just a get your thoughts out of the way and then specifically work on what you need to work to grow.
Yes. No, that's really good. Now we're going to dive a little deeper. I know, I'm worried too. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. Many people in their lives, maybe everyone, I would think, probably everyone, have had feelings of hurt, pain, and anger, and just different things that have happened in their life where they need to truly forgive someone. So what does that mean to go through that process of forgiving someone, and how does writing it out, kind of like how you're talking with, because you were saying specific writing techniques like, dialoguing with your inner child, those sorts of things. How does this help a person sort through these issues of, forgiveness, or like if we have an offense against someone, to kind of get that out of the way? How does this help?
Well, I think the download of feelings onto paper is a huge step in the first place. Because anything that we're holding inside, we all know how anxious that can make us. And that in itself can be a cause for depression as well. So downloading those thoughts is a great place to start.
Say someone has a bunch of muck up there and from the past where, like, maybe they had abusive, mom or dad, and so they have to get it all out, and their goal is to sort through these things. So how would do you just keep writing every day, getting it all out? There must be more than that.
I think you're right, and I think you try and find a different perspective as well.
Yes.
I think it really helps to try and see another perspective. You have the perspective of hindsight for a start, that you're going back and you're examining these things from a different place.
Yes.
But I think that also trying to see the perspective of the people involved is also very helpful. And when it comes to forgiveness, I think this can be a lifelong process. And I think forgiveness is never about anybody else. It's always about ourselves and about letting go of hurt and letting go of anger, and never saying that what the other person did is okay. Never saying, never excusing their behavior, but saying that you are willing to let go and have that release. And I think that's where faith really comes in as well, because for me, I definitely feel like when it comes to forgiving somebody, that's between them and God. And for me, it's just about letting go.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I hear you on that, because that's something I have to usually pray about. God, just help me forgive this person.
Yeah, and I really think it's a lifelong journey.
Yes.
When I wrote a blog post about forgiveness, and I had a response from a lady whose husband was shot in a terrorist attack at Westgate Mall in Nairobi last year.
Oh, wow.
So this is only just over a year ago, and just the forgiveness that she has in her heart, and just that understanding of the need to forgive, or else she knew that it was going to eat her alive, right?
Yes.
So, but it just really amazed me that under those circumstances and in such a short period of time, that she has been able to forgive. And I think just having that understanding of the importance of forgiveness on what it's really about.
Yeah.
It's not about them, it's about you. I think that's just really essential to have. And faith helps a whole lot.
Yes. Oh, that's powerful. Wow. That's great. I'm glad you shared that story. So how does writing from your own life story, from a raw place of vulnerability, and getting it, I guess we sort of discussed this a bit, getting it out of your head onto the page, help someone to heal? And I guess it is a longer process. You were kind of mentioning that. But, maybe there's, because you've done a lot of these workshops, what have you seen? Maybe maybe there's some stories you can tell of people that you've seen when they've done this, when they've written down, they've journaled, and they've been vulnerable on the page and got it out of their head. How has it helped them to heal?
Well, what I've seen a lot of is tears.
Yes.
Which I always tell people is a good thing.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. People, it's really hard to go to these places, right? And to relive painful memories and to write it all down. And people initially, it's kind of like being sick. You feel worse before you get better.
Yeah.
But it's a hard thing to explain, this healing process, because you would think that getting it all out on the page, that it's sort of well, how's this really going to help me? It's still there, but it's looking at it from a different perspective and not keeping those emotions locked inside. And it's a challenging thing to explain what it does. It's just so powerful to help you relive those memories. And I've just seen a lot of people just say how much release they feel.
Yeah.
How much relief and how much more at peace they are after writing things out and revisiting things. Because once you write them out and get that different perspective, you can go back and you can talk to loved ones, and it opens up lines of communication. Whereas if you're keeping it all inside and never writing it down, you're never addressing these things. So I think it's sort of like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Yes.
And
yeah.
once you rip off a Band-Aid, that's where the healing begins, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's really good. And I was just thinking of different people that I know where that would just really be. I mean, I've only recently started doing this in the last couple of years, but I just know of people where that would really help, right? Even though ripping off the Band-Aid does hurt, it heals you though, right?
Yeah, and especially when then, if you start writing down your story, I think the sharing it is a really big piece here, because it's when you talk about it and you connect with other people and you find out that, oh yeah, they have a very similar story, and to tell my story is helping them. And it sort of becomes like this chain where you're telling your story, and then that gives somebody else permission to feel safe to tell their story, and it just becomes this big web of connection.
Yes. No, I've definitely noticed that when, even on my blog, when I share like a story, then in the comments, then someone else will share their story. It's like you're saying, like then we start to connect, because I don't know, is that us feeling safe with the other person?
It's safe. I think that we all have a desire to be real.
Yeah.
And yet we walk around wearing these masks because we're afraid of judgment and of criticism.
Yeah.
And I think it's only when we remove the mask that we really find true connection as human beings.
Yeah. You wrote a post. This is another one that I read of your post. I just loved it. You wrote a post on how 15 minutes a day can change your life. So how do we do busy well and choose our best yes in our life? I know you had kind of written about that, but maybe sort of what's your take on that?
Well, I think busy has become like this cult. Everybody is so... You talk to people nowadays and the response is always, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do that. I'm too busy to fit that into my life. Busy is like this buzzword that everybody's using as though it's a good thing. And if you're living a very life that is complete with many of the things that you desire, then being busy with those things is a good thing. But if you're busy doing stuff that makes you anxious and stressed out and depressed, then it's not a good thing. So we do busy well by filling our lives with the things that bring us joy and with the things that nourish us. And for me, the 15 minutes thing comes from actually my journaling practice, which I started several years ago. And for a long time, I had been saying, I need to journal. So I was already doing the writing, the fiction writing, and then the non-fiction and the blogging. But I wasn't doing the kind of writing where I really checked in with myself every day, or the morning pages, anything like that. And I was thinking at the time, oh, I just don't have time to do this. I can't fit one more thing in my life. And then I thought, but this is really important. Being kind to myself, nourishing my needs, this is really, really important. And how about if I just do it for 15 minutes a day? Is that going to work? Will I be able to find 15 minutes? And I thought, well, yeah, I can find 15 minutes. I can get up 15 minutes earlier. I can do that. That's manageable. So I started with that, and now my practice is more like an hour, because I think inevitably when you make room for something, and it becomes a habit, and you realize how much joy that thing brings you, then you make more room for it.
Yes.
It becomes one of the most important things in your life. So I think that for anybody who says, I can't fit that thing in, A, if it's really important, you will, and B, you can find 15 minutes.
Yes.
Yes. It's just getting up earlier or going to bed later, watching a little less TV.
Yes.
Any of these things we do that waste time.
Yes.
Because all these really, really, really busy people, they probably still watch TV. They probably still do those things that waste time as well.
Yeah. So cut out one TV show and you'd probably get it in, right? Or something.
Yeah. And I think it's just the idea of fitting in another thing that's daunting for people. But 15 minutes is not so daunting, and that's why it's a place to start. Yeah.
No, that's really good. And I like what you said about to show ourselves, not just other people, but ourselves kindness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like that. That's
the most important thing, because we're good at showing other people's kindness, and we don't do that with ourselves.
Yes, and we need to. That's really good. Yeah. You obviously have a whole lifetime of, experience and wisdom that you've learned from other people, and just from your whole process of, writing and mentoring other people. So what would you say is the best advice or wisdom that you've ever received, and how did it help you?
I don't know whether I recall one specific thing, but the thing that comes up for me a lot is related to authenticity, and because of that, it has become one of my values.
Yes.
So many people have been mentors and influences in my life, and these are people that tell me how important it is to show up, and how important it is to be my true self. And I wouldn't be doing any of the work that I do today if that hadn't been sort of a constant theme in my life, or at least in the past decade.
Yes.
So being authentic and, sort of being true to myself and showing up and sharing my story is really the best piece of advice I've ever had, and it's been from several people in my life.
Yeah. That's really good. I just think if more of us would share the real, our real self, our real story with others, I think there would be more maybe compassion and connection with each other.
A whole lot less speak too.
On your blog, The Gift of Writing, you do have a few online courses that you talk about. Do you mind giving a brief, sharing a brief summary of the classes that you offer, just so that people can sort of have an idea what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been teaching in my community in a classroom environment for a few years now, and I sort of recently made the decision to take my classes online. Because I want to reach more people, and I just think it's a great way to help my readers. And I love workshops, and I wanted to experiment with online workshops, which is part of my course. And so the first one that I've been offering is Journaling for Creative Growth. And that's it's for writers and non-writers. It's about tapping into your creative side And so I offer people several different journaling techniques. I also teach them the basics of writing their story if they're interested in doing that. And I also teach them about writing their personal manifesto, which for me is a really excellent way to sort of figure out where you're going, what you value, what your strengths are, what your passions are, who you are as a person. And I see that sort of as a compass for the soul. So that's a really important part of that workshop. And then the other workshop, which I'm actually working on right now and I'm going to offer in the spring, is Write Your Story. So that's going to lead people through why write your story in the first place. Who do you want to share it with? Helping them deal with the painful emotions that come up. And helping them with the actual writing techniques, how you build a story, how you work on characters and dialogue and your narrative arc, all the different components that make up a good story. So, and then I also teach Journal to the Self, which is actually a course that was originated by a lady called Kathleen Adams, who is sort of one of the original gurus of journaling, and she developed a lot of the journaling exercises that I use. And so I offer that workshop both online and in the community. So a lot of journaling, writing your story, self-development, it's all sort of along the lines of the things that we've been talking about.
Yes, no, that's terrific. So, just to clarify, the Write Your Story workshop.
Yeah.
So, that's for people who want to write fiction, or it's for like?
No, it's writing your story.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you write your personal story, you still have to bring all those elements that are used in fiction.
I can't wait. I can see that being a really good course, Clara. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrific.
Fun journey.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, you're probably busy with all of that. Is there that's kind of what you're focused on right now, or is there something else that you haven't told us that we could look forward to? Like, I don't know. Maybe you have a book you're writing?
I am working on my own memoir, which is very slow in coming because of the developing the courses.
Of course.
Working online, yeah. And so I have a writing partner that I'm working with on that. And I haven't sort of decided about that just in terms of publication because it does involve family members or that. So that's something that I will be discussing in my workshop as well. It's whether you share your story, how you share it in terms of publication.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something I'm working on, but whether it's something that you'll see as readers in the near future, I haven't made a decision about that yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I just like to hear. I'm fascinated to know kind of what's coming up for you. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. So, would you mind telling people different spots online where they can connect with you?
Yeah. Well, my website is thegiftofwriting.com. So you'll find my courses there, blog posts, guest blog posts. I have a free ebook on there. Which is called Why Writing Your Story Might Be the Most Important Thing You Ever Do. And I've blogged for many people. I'm currently a writer and editor for She Loves magazine.
Okay.
Which is a faith-based online magazine, and you can find that at shelovesmagazine.com. And I'm based in Vancouver, where I also teach. So for any locals, that's where I have my in-person classes.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, thanks so much, Claire, for just sharing your story. Really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure.